Hi, Mitchell Levy, and welcome back. Welcome to one of the most favorite times of my day. I'm excited today I had two favorite times, and that's talking to someone who I really do find credible, somebody who I trust, I know, and I like. I'm going to probably say trust, know, and love. And I'm excited to bring him to you. And we're going to be talking about his values. We're going to talk about values. This show is Leaders Living Their Values. And Dr. Joey Faucette, welcome.
Hey, thanks. I feel the love already, Mitchell.
I appreciate that. And so, just so the audience knows, who are you?
Yeah, well, I'm Lonnie and Becky's son, firstborn son. In fact, I'm fond of saying I'm their number one son, but my younger brother, make sure that we give definition to that. Mom and dad are still living. And so we're in a beautiful stage of their twilight years where I get to return the favor. They carried me around and took care of me in my early years. And so now I get to take care of them. So they're still living independently right now. I'm also, as I mentioned, older brother. Talked to my brother Jeff today, and so one of my core values is obviously relationships, Mitchell, because I'm beginning by talking about the people around me who are really important. Also, I'm a husband. I've been married for 40 years to the same woman, which is in itself a manifestation of the abundance of the universe, right? So also I'm daddy to a couple of daughters, 35 and 30, and 35 and 31. Better get that right. My most favorite, I'm not into titles. However, if I were, my favorite title right now is Pops. Because daughter number two and her husband, who live a couple of miles from our little farm, gifted my wife and I with the most beautiful, brilliant granddaughter ever born. I'm sure you saw all the news pieces about her, the day she was born. It was like this birth announcement all around the world. Most beautiful, brilliant little girl ever born. So she thinks I hung the moon. I try not to disagree with her, because she's the center of my universe. So I love experiencing life through her eyes and the awe and wonder that literally renews my soul. As business owners, Mitchell, we're constantly making decisions. When I'm with her, my decision fatigue goes away, because it's, come on, Pops, read me a book, or come on, Pops, let's do this, or come on, Pops, let's go outside and feed the nays. So it's all wonderful. So that's part of who I am. I'm also a business owner, have been since officially 2004, started the business back in 2001, but left all the other side hustle jobs, or the side hustle became the main job, I guess, the main work. And so I've written about 8 books so far. 8 books so far, and am writing a 9th now. The plan is to release about 5 or 6 more short books this year. I think you and I have talked about the beauty of short books, and so there'll be about 100 pages just helping people move forward. So my mission in life is to maximize potential. And of course, that begins with my own. And so I daily do those things which grow me. And then I have the awesome opportunity to help companies grow their culture so that they work positive as well as grow their people. The beautiful thing about what I get to do, and I literally get to do it every day, Mitchell, is that by helping companies grow, we spend about 70% of our waking hours at work. So work is the largest influencer of what we experience in society, because we're investing 70% of our time there. So when work is right, when work is positive, then homes are made whole, communities are made better, schools are made better. So it's an incredible dynamic in which I get to help maximize potential all over the world.
So, long intro of who you are, and not out of expectations with any of our conversations. Welcome, thank you. God, so much to unpack from there. I
Mm.
loved that you talked about your parents. I saw the vision of you now carrying your parents around, and I think,
Mm.
wow, that may not have been the picture. Oh, was that the picture you wanted me to?
Ah, well, yeah, what a great picture. Unfortunately, Dad weighs more than I do, so I can't literally carry him. But I have recently. My mother had COVID and was hospitalized, and so I literally was carrying her. Yeah. Hmm.
Wow, that's amazing. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is nice to be able to give back to your
Yeah.
parents and
Yeah.
what's been given. And yeah, it's interesting when I think about you from the first time. So first, shout out to Adrian Barker. Thank you so much for introducing us.
Yeah. The amazing Adrian.
I know. How did I forget that title? But yes,
That's what I call her.
oh, it's actually true.
Yeah, it is.
And appreciate you her introducing us.
Mm.
And it's interesting to think about you. From the first time I met you, I felt warm. I felt comfort.
Mm.
How do you do
Thank
that?
you. How do I do that? Um, that's a really good question. It's almost like asking me, how did I get brown eyes? It's just such a natural part of who I am. How did I do that? Well, let me take you back, and I'm just going to walk you back through my first responses here. Let me take you back to fourth grade when I think I first. Well, no, I won't say first. When I had like a second experience with discovering some of whom I am and settling into who I am, Mitchell, it was report card time, and I had an unusually good report. Well, I won't say unusually. I had a really good report card. Firstborn son, so high achiever, and those kinds of things that typically accompany that position in the birth
Wait a
order.
second. I'm a firstborn son. Is that what I was supposed to do? I missed that.
Well, you understand, I'm just talking about fourth grade. I'm not talking about high school. So,
Uh,
so we're in good shape here. But I remember getting ridiculed by one of my neighbors, whom my mother was giving a ride home, by the way. And I saw the injustice in that immediately. Dude, you can get out and walk. Um, but I began to get ridiculed for the high marks that I had received. And I mean, with all the clarity that a 10-year-old can have, I just remember thinking, Mitchell, well, okay, that's who you choose to be. This is who I choose to be. And I don't have to be like you. I can be me. And
at
so from
10?
that,
Wait.
yeah,
At 10?
exactly. Yeah.
I did
And
not
I was
have
sitting in
that
the back.
clarity. I did not
Yeah.
have that when I was. What gave you that?
Well, I was sitting in the back of a 1966 Chevrolet Impala, so I'm sure it was it was that awesome vehicle I was riding. What gave me that? Well, let me dial it back the previous year to the third grade when I was 9 years old, and I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, most of them in agriculture. My mother's parents were particularly formative in my development. Spent a lot of time with them, and so they had a dairy farm, and then they raised row crops to feed the cows. Also raised tobacco, being good Southerners in North Carolina. And then, since they didn't have anything else to do, they ran a country store for 10 years of my life. So, so idle hands are the devil's workshop, I think was their mantra. But I can remember in third grade, I wanted to do something myself to generate some income. And because I just thought that's what everybody did. So I tried mowing lawns and discovered severe allergies to mown grass, and settled into a viral infection in my lungs. Spent a week in Duke University Hospital, which was not nearly the size of the footprint it is now, by the way. Um, and they gave me up for dead. I remember being in the mist tent and hearing, back then we had mist tents, hearing the doctor say, it turned out it was an intern, say to my mother, "We're not sure he's going to make it through the night." And my mother, even after all these years, it's rather emotional to tell the story, Mitchell. My mother, I remember her, she slept on the floor beside my bed because back then they didn't have sofas and things like that. But I remember her sitting on the edge of my bed, putting her hand up under that mist tent and saying to me, "I am positive you will live through this night."
Hmm.
And so the next morning, Dr. Susan Dees, who, unbeknownst to me at that time, was the foremost pediatric asthma allergist specialist in the world, and came in and discovered that I had an allergy to the medication that was in the mist tent, and the intern had just missed it the night before. And so as soon as that cleared up, then I began to get better. And when you hear someone say about you, like you're not in the room, right? That you're not sure you're going to make it, and you make it, man, it just flooded me with gratitude and this sense of purpose that I then had as a 9-year-old to say, there's a reason I'm here. And I'm going to spend the rest of my life discovering that reason. And I'm going to live into that and help other people do the same. So when I talk about maximizing potential, that's where it literally started for me as a third grader in Duke University Hospital. So fast forward a year to sitting in that back seat, that's what drove that self-awareness was, hey, I'm here for a purpose, and it's not to sandbag and make C's and D's like you're making, buddy. I'm here to get to squeeze every drop, precious drop out of this life I've got. So death has a way of focusing you, or the potential of death.
It's interesting though. So you're focused and you want to get everything you can out of life. What made you decide that grades and education was the right thing? Or how do you decide at that younger age? What are the values that make you make a decision that I need to focus on this thing versus that thing? Like you could have just dove into your family store and done that really heavily.
Yeah, I could have. Well, a couple of things there. First of all, that's what you do when you're in third and fourth grade. I mean, that's how you spend your time. That's your work. Is they wake you up every morning, feed you a bowl of Frosted Flakes, and send you to school, right? Then they come get you and bring you back home, and what do you sit down at the kitchen table and do? Homework. So, I mean, that was my orbit as a third and fourth grader. So it was just a natural expression, if you will. Now, go back to third grade when I got well and I came home, couldn't mow lawns, kind of figured that one out. So appearing in my mailbox one day was a big brown envelope from the Sales Leadership Club. Don't know if anybody besides me has ever heard of them, but they offered kids like me an opportunity to sell what was then a novelty item, inscribed Christmas cards. So imagine these beautiful Christmas cards, and you could actually get your family's name printed in there. Of course, we had to count the number of characters and things like that. That sounds absolutely ridiculous now, because when I get Christmas cards, if someone hand wrote their names, it's a big deal, right? Back then, it was a novelty item for names to be inscribed in Christmas cards. And so I just started going door to door selling those. And and it was in summertime. And so you can imagine showing somebody a Christmas card with Frosty Snowman on, and I grew up in Eastern North Carolina, so it's 100 degrees with 100% humidity, and you're standing Frosty. But I was 9 years old, this cute smile, and who could say anything but yes to how many boxes do you want? Right. I learned early not to ask them if they wanted any, but to say how many boxes did you want? So I found that I could do that. I did it well. And so I just started asking everybody I knew. I went to my dad's office, asked those folks. I asked my neighbors. I went to church and asked those people, how many boxes of Christmas cards do you want? So back then, 3-speed bikes were new. We didn't have 10 speeds or whatever the maximum is we have now. So I earned enough money to get a 3-speed bike through the Sales Leadership Club. Cassette recorders were new. I got a cassette recorder. Got a telescope. I'd always wanted a telescope because I wanted to see the man in the moon, right? And remember, I'm 9 and JFK had said, we're going to the moon. So July 20, 1969, I was looking at the moon with that telescope when Neil Armstrong sets foot on it. So
nice.
That it wasn't just education, but it was expressions of who you are, what you can do, and how much you can get out of life, and how much you can maximize your potential and just enjoy life. The other thing about education, though, was that I grew up with my father saying, get all the education you can. Nobody can ever take that away from you. Dad, I learned later, repeated third grade, never went to college. And so I was the first gen in my family to go to a 4-year degree, to get a 4-year degree. So, that ringing in my head always was a way of maximizing potential. It's just another opportunity to become more of the reason, the purpose why I was here.
What facilitated you getting a PhD?
My wife, she helped by working so I could study. I worked also. Um, so it just became, again, an exercise in learning more. I absolutely love learning. I am a reader. I think Kindles are the best thing ever made because I can carry a library of books in my pocket and open them up. And I love all kinds of literature. In fact, my undergrad degree was in English, and I was certified to teach high school English. I love writing, have won writing awards. Just absolute love, because it gives me an opportunity to maximize that potential of communication. And words matter, and they help transform the world and other people's lives so that they can discover their purpose and maximize as much of it as they can.
And then, so let's fast forward to today. You've always wanted to maximize value for yourself, and now you do this for others. How do you determine who to take on as a client and who not? Like that's an interesting question I want to ask you. Is when somebody comes in the door, you have to make a decision. Do I want to work with this individual or this company?
Yeah.
And what helps you decide the yes or no decision?
Right. Well, obviously, I'm in business to create a sustainable business. So their ability to pay the bills, right? That's always something that
let's assume they all pay. It's a good question, good thought, but let's assume they can pay.
Yeah,
okay.
right. Create a sustainable business. Well, again, I mentioned the abundance of the universe. Whenever resources converge, I'm paying attention, and I believe that resources are converging constantly in ways that are easy to overlook. So I pay attention when someone reaches out to me or when my relational path crosses theirs. For instance, ours. Adrian brought us together. There's some significance in that. And then within about 3 minutes of our first conversation, I was like, Mitchell Levy, somebody I want to know more. So that's the convergence of resources that are beyond my ability to control or manipulate, sometimes even influence. So when there's that joie de vivre, when there's that je ne sais quoi that comes your way in a relationship that quickly, that's one of the ways I know. So that means we're constantly talking to clients, vetting them. As I've gotten older, strategic use of resources has become more important to me, because while I'm maximizing my purpose, I'm beginning to realize, and not to be morbid, but I already said I faced death, so I guess I already was morbid. But just to recognize that there are fewer years ahead of me than there are behind me, and so making sure that the investments are those that are going to have maximum impact. So making sure that the clients are willing to work, on maximizing, making sure, particularly in our cases, we're creating positive work culture within companies, making sure that the owners or the leaders with whom we're having conversations truly want to invest in their people for more than profitability. Now, profitability is important, don't get me wrong, but it's got to be a reason beyond that, something that is a little harder to put on the balance sheet. So when there's that connectedness like you and I have, when there's that shared common values, when there are shared priorities, for instance, and when there's a recognition by them that we're being invited into work, that it's not just a box they're checking because they needed to train ICF certified coaches, the wanted culture architects created within their company or something like that. It's not just a box to check, but it's something they truly desire and is aligned with their own sense of priorities and leadership of the company. Then it's something that we get interested in, and then we start talking about making investments.
But I hear you. And how do you determine Is it a feeling? What is it when you're talking with the CEO of the C-suite where you recognize it's something other than checking the box? Because I see a lot of leaders who are just checking the box.
Yeah, yeah. Um, it's almost like a sniff test, right? You know it when you see it or smell it, but you can tell it's almost how do I describe it? Almost two-dimensional. It's just really flat, and their passion's not engaged, and so that's when I start digging a little bit deeper into who they are and start asking them, oh, well, what are some of the values that drive you, and how do those align with the company? And then you just start ferreting that out. Otherwise, as I said, it's a je ne sais quoi. It's just, boom, they're doing what they're doing. And also, I guess that's one advantage of having more time behind me than in front of me is I've seen it enough, and I know it when I see it or when I sniff it.
I do have a question. I just finished reading Peter Thiel's 0 to 1. And he
Okay.
made a very interesting statement about culture. What he said is you can't bring culture to a company. The company is the culture.
Yes.
What does that mean to you?
That means every company has a culture, and it's simply a matter of what kind of culture it is. So what's it like to work here? That becomes the question. Because in coaching, we always want to help persons move from where they are to where they want to be. So we've got to define, who was it, Max Dupree, that talked about, what time is it in the business, or the reality of the company. And of course, the role of leadership is to declare that here's reality. Now, there's a preferred reality. So now let's declare what that preferred reality is. Let's look at the gap, and then let's work together to create the adoption, for instance, of the 5 core practices of a work positive framework from which we coach. What did those look like in the Acme Corporation? Because it's going to look different in every company. So where's the culture now? What's the culture like? And then where does the culture want to be? And how can we integrate, right, what we know works, these sets of habits that work to get you where you want to be? But it has to be implemented, and it has to be adopted into who the culture is in that company. We're not there to graft something on. We're there to infuse and to play to the strengths of what's going on in that culture already. So yeah, every company has a culture. It's just a matter of what kind of culture, and is it the culture they want?
Well, I got three more questions, and the first one is for those who are intrigued and they want to learn more and they want to reach out. How best should people reach out to you?
Yeah, go to workpositive.today, and there's a contact form there. You can reach out to me about our online resources, coaching programs that we offer.
Uh-oh. Was that me? Or was that Joey?
It might have been me.
It's you. It's so funny. I'm in Silicon Valley and do occasionally have technology issues. And fortunately,
I'm not in Silicon Valley. But I need
these
Elon
things
Musk
happen.
on speed dial.
It's funny. You were just on how people can reach out to you, and you mentioned your website,
Sure.
and Garen was kind enough to put it up on the screen.
Awesome. Thanks, Garen. Appreciate that. Yeah, there's a contact form right up there in the nav bar, and you can check out our resources there.
Super cool. All right. So, given the way this conversation has gone so far, is there a question that you would have liked me to ask you that I didn't?
Wow. Yeah. The only thing I can think of, because you do a really good job of asking questions, and thanks for letting me share who I am. Most of the time you're here to extol the virtues of your products or your services or something like that. But who you are is such a great opening question. Yeah, you could have asked me, Dr. Joey, what's one thing about you that very few people know?
I could ask that question, so why don't I? Dr. Joey, what is one thing about you that very few people know? Thanks for prompting me.
Well, thanks for asking and prompting me to ask that question that says you could ask me, Well, let's see. Let's go back. We've been to third grade and fourth grade. Let's go to sixth grade. So, growing up in Eastern North Carolina, my church background was rather conservative, and so dancing was frowned upon. I lobbied my mom
Kind of
and
like
my
this
dad.
Kevin Bacon Footloose thing.
That's it. That's it. That was my life. Yeah.
Okay.
So I lobbied my mom and dad for the entire fifth grade year to please let me take ballroom dancing with Bobby Jean Collins dance studio, because all the cool kids did it, right? Better yet, remember I'm in fifth grade, so I'm discovering the fairer gender, shall we say. And I'm really interested in them. And I mean, good God, you get to hold hands and touch each other in ballroom dancing. So I'm thinking, okay, this is cool. Well, I lobbied for the entire fifth grade. All my other friends were in it in fifth when we were in fifth grade. I finally convinced them when we got to sixth grade that I could do it. And so, excuse me, in sixth grade, I won the best all around dancing trophy in my beginner ballroom class.
By the way, I'm sure other people know about it if you have a trophy that you reach to.
I have a trophy, but I don't show this trophy to everyone. In fact, I can't remember the last time I picked up this trophy.
Oh, then I'm
Maybe in a
so
coaching
honored.
group or something. But yeah, I won this. Now, my picture was in the paper. Deborah Batts was my dance partner. We did the waltz, the cha-cha, and the bop. And we were great at all three of them, Mitchell. And that's why we won best all around. So picture in the paper. There was no cash prize, unfortunately, but I did get a trophy. And picture in the paper. I could not show my grandparents this trophy or the picture in the paper.
Really?
Yeah, because it was a violation of their core values. So I learned to respect other people's values at that point, but I also learned how to get what I wanted. And that was the opportunity to dance with Deborah Batts and win a trophy at Bobby Jean Collins dance studio. So that's something very few people know about me.
And I immediately go to and then I realize how silly of me. I go to the internet to try to Google a picture of the two of you, but
well, it might be out there. I don't know. I think Deborah married Bob Isley, so she's Deborah Isley now. Maybe I should call her and ask her if she could. My mother probably has that picture in a memories box somewhere that's got my name on it that she won't let me have until after she passes away. So there's probably all sorts of fun stuff like that in there.
Because it violates some values of some person somewhere.
That's right. But I mean, truly, I learned how to respect, okay, my grandparents won't understand this. But boy, I had a lot of fun and it was great to dance. And I've enjoyed dancing ever since. In fact, the first date my wife and I went on, we went dancing. So it's pretty cool. So that's something not too many people know, and I wish you'd ask me about, Mitchell.
Okay, well, I'm glad you shared. I will now remember the interest in and actually execution of, and then in sixth grade, and then actually recognizing that you can't tell important parts of your family. Like that's probably the thing that's fascinating is you need to hide a part of yourself from your family. Because it doesn't fit their core values.
Right. And lead with certain parts of who you are, right, as opposed to others. So it's not about me. It's about our relationship and what's going to respect you the most and who you are. And it's going to be a great world if more of us did that.
Well, I love this values conversation. And before I say thank you so much, I want to do a quick station identification. So we've got a product called the Ultimate Credibility Bootcamp. It's done once a quarter. You can go to ultimatecredibilitybootcamp.com. And what happens is you first get to take a asynchronous course so you can articulate who you are and how you serve, the playground you play in 10 words or less. And once you have that, in the boot camp, we spend day one showing up credibly. How do you articulate that? How do you reinforce that? And then we do day two. How do you make sure that gets reinforced asynchronously? So come on over to the Ultimate Credibility Bootcamp. Looking forward to seeing you there. And I think what's interesting is as you're talking the entire time, Dr. Joey, I visualize you. I think about you. I hear these words.
Mm,
You make it. I understand what it would feel like to actually bring you into a company to help deliver the
mm.
culture or extend the culture that an executive team already has. So I just want to say thank you so much for
Thank you, buddy.
opening up and being you. You're awesome.
Well, everybody else is already taken, so I am what I am, Popeye says.
You are who you are. And
That's right.
and so for those still here, this is now the time to spread some cred dust. Click on the like button, share with your friends, and document that aha moment that's exciting to you, and share it in whatever platform you're listening or watching today. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next episode of Leaders Living Their Values. Take care, everyone. Bye now.